Matt Reardon, the Oxford Outlaw. I wanted to take a second. I wanted to read right here. It's my latest filing. This has been a thing of mine that's been pretty characteristic of everything and shed some transparency on everything that has been going on up to this point. How unequivocal and unfair this whole just witch hunt has been. So on Saturday, update, I was served on the petition filed by my ex Liz Crowder. Completely frivolous. I'm going to get into exactly how just jaw-droppingly frivolous it was. You'll have a better, complete, I'll say a pretty complete understanding after hearing what it is that I'm about to read. Okay? I want you to keep in mind also this, that this is only about maybe half of what this filing is going to be. It's 8 pages. Just in the Chancery Court of Fayette County, Mississippi. Liz Crowder was listed as the petitioner versus Matthew Oliver Reardon, who is listed as the respondent. I refuse to acknowledge the assignment in this as her being the plaintiff and me being the defendant, because at the end of the day, I should not be the defendant on this. This is 100% false, frivolous. It was done in a way padding for other legal matter that she had going on at the time. And this was yet again another conspired upon plot that was done at the hands of two just ridiculous attorneys. Mona Pittman and Kristen McCoy. So, this is a citation of modification and other relief is what they called it, and I would sure love to know what that is, because this is the first I've ever heard of a citation of modification. I've heard of citation of contempt, but a citation of modification? Please, somebody, explain to me what the hell that is, and how it's any bit of a legitimate sense. So right here, you have the respondent's counterclaim to include modification of custody and child support order and reassignment of custody, the prayer for withdrawal of current withholding order and assessment of other party for child support, prayer for permanent injunctive relief, an application of sanctions, and the rendering of criminal charges of perjury as a future deterrent by this honorable court as warranted. Comes now your respondent, Matthew Oliver Reardon, and files his answer to petition for citation of modification and other relief, and files his response to counterclaim. The said matter is allowable under Rule 81T, paragraph 4 of the Mississippi Rules for Civil Procedure. Just cause would state to the court the following, to wit: 1, that the respondent admits claims in paragraph 1 of petitioner's petition. I'm just going to say petition instead of having to repeat at the same time. 2, the respondent admits the claims in paragraph 2. 3, the respondent admits the claims in paragraph 3 of the petitioner's petition. 1, 2, and 3 are basic generalities. These are generalities such as government of Fayette County, conservative Fayette County, that there was an order of modification that was entered by this court. This was done in 2018, May 2018. 4. The respondent vehemently denies and further moves this court to strike from the record the claims in paragraph 4 of petitioner's petition for citation of modification and other relief. The respondent would demonstrate to this court that the petitioner did in fact file a false report with Mississippi Child Services while respondent and his spouse were caring for their newborn child, who was fighting for her life at the time at LeBonner Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And in doing so, the petitioner knowingly interfered with the care of the then ailing newborn child. At the same time, the petitioner not only agreed additional financial hardship and intentional mental anguish on the respondent and his spouse, but chose to knowingly waste state resources in her knowingly false allegation made to Mississippi Child Protective Services. Due to time and resources wasted in the course of the investigation, which not only produced unfounded, untrue results, but additionally, the minor child specifically admitted to CPS that the asserted claim by the petitioner was not true. The CPS investigation has long since been ended, and multiple reported calls with CPS would show the petitioner gave a false report, which was closed out as unfounded. That CPS further went on to assert that the petitioner lied, and worst of all, the petitioner carried and is continuing to carry such a lie through the help of her attorney, despite CPS categorically denying ever advising petitioner to refrain from allowing the respondent visitation of his minor child as ordered by this court, and in fact asserting that they would never, nor could ever, assert such a thing. Something that common sense, the most due to liability, something such as that would most certainly be imposed on a state agency without the knowledge or the direction of the court. It certainly warrants the question being posed
of, is this woman the next Casey Anthony? Is her attorney that incompetent?
And that negligent. It's not questioned such bizarre and immoral claims made by her client, or did she play a material part as a co-conspirator in this extremely immoral and inexcusable plot to interfere with a standing custody order, visitation order put in place by this court by preventing a loving and caring father access to his minor child for 8 months in an intentional ploy to run astray, in an extremely corrupt, overbearing, unlawful attempt of this court's child visitation and custody order, and further to take advantage of the pandemic, leaving the respondent feeling helpless and hopeless. The real and most rightful question this court should assess and take into consideration is how much involvement really exists here, and is there in fact a puppeteer pulling strings and attempting to coerce a favored outcome in at least 2 other legal proceedings in a situation that gives off all impressions as RICO, which is racketeer, influenced, corrupt, by the petitioner's other legal counsel in the Olive Branch matter by the name of Kristen Boyd, receiving state-funded tax dollars by way of grants from the state to represent victims, is indeed representing someone that is clearly creating victims, even after being presented with evidence in her client, the petitioner in this cause admitted to conspiring with her, to conspiring to unlawfully frame the respondent rape. Isn't it ironic? Less than 2 weeks before the petition was slaughtered for trial, this petition is filed in support by Pitt Taking it even further, Attorney McCoy attempted to demonize the respondent and sentence him prior to her client being given 30 days of incarceration for the said crime, which the respondent feels was already an extreme injustice, given the way he was victimized in said matter and further victimized by the petitioner's attorney, who actually made reference to this particular cause that was opened in an attempt to lighten the petitioner's sentence remedy. It's made it clear to the respondent that this particular legal matter was initiated with ill intentions all the way around. As the false claims are completely false, the petitioner found direct benefit the entire time at the intentional infliction of damage on the respondent and his spouse. It's a frightening thought and really an unfortunate truth. There are actually attorneys with valid law licenses allowed to practice law in the state who are either advising their clients to lie in such an aberrant and reputable way in order to intentionally interfere with the father's established visitation schedule in a foul attempt to defend their client against an allegation of filing a false breaking accusation, which is 100% the fault and choosing of the petitioner to have done, and further substantiating the injury sustained by the victim by berating the victim at the sentencing in a crazy attempt to somehow try to reduce the sentence level. The respondent would allege that if the petitioner's attorneys adamantly denied what would appear as substantiated evidence. It's heard. Negligence and the decisions and actions stemming after consultations not only question the validity of the petitioner who's had a history of pathological lying, especially when it came to an issue of this severity. Either way, the respondent feels that based on substantiated evidence presented before this court that it would warrant a further investigation by the proper agencies and conduct such investigation in such a non-biased and uninfluenced way. That sanctions pursuant to Rule 11 of the Rules of Civil Procedure are most certainly warranted, should be absolute in this particular issue.
Okay, I wanted to read off the petition I'm filing at Chancery Court tomorrow. Wanted to get it filed today, ran out of time, and the details would not stop flowing. This problem needs to be nipped in the bud. So in the Chancery Court of Lafayette County, Mississippi, Matthew Oliver Reardon versus Phyllis Marie Crowder Kester, emergency petition for citation of contempt and modification of child custody and child support agreement and other relief. Comes now the petitioner, Matthew Oliver Reardon, files his emergency complaint of contempt and petition for modification of custody against the defendant, Phyllis Crowder Kester. In support thereof, your petitioner would respectfully show unto the court the following. This court has personal and subject matter jurisdiction in the matter. 2. That the defendant, Phyllis Crowder Kester, is an adult resident citizen of Lafayette County, may be served with process at her residence in Lafayette County, Mississippi, or wherever she may be found. That on August, this court entered an agreed order of modification regarding child visitation, a true and correct copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A. That the defendant abruptly ceased communication between the plaintiff and his child for approximately 2 weeks, beginning on Christmas Day of 2019, when plaintiff's third child was born at the Tupelo Women's Hospital, breaching the agreement established by this court through intentionally preventing communication between the plaintiff and his minor child. It is of the plaintiff's impression that the defendant's jealousy of a new sibling being born was the willful cause of this contumacious action, due to the defendant demonstrating the same harmful choices and malicious behavior in May of 2018 after the plaintiff's second child was born on April 30th. Plaintiff would further show that the conduct of the defendant as well as the defendant's attorneys have far surpassed self-assuming the role of judge, jury and executioner, and that the malicious, frivolous, and false claims that have been asserted by the defendant and her attorney have met and exceeded the threshold required for slander, defamation of character, abuse of process, and malicious prosecution. The plaintiff would demonstrate to this court that by admission on a recorded phone call on this date, the defendant admitted to conspiring with her present husband in an obnoxious attempt to falsely accuse the plaintiff of raping her on November 28, 2018. As a result of her criminal actions, Olive Branch Police Department filed a misdemeanor charge and sought a warrant for her arrest in or around January of 2019 for making a false police report. As such, it's the intention of the petitioner to bring separate tort causes of action, seeking remedies to the damages inflicted in the appropriate courts for relief from such actions. Evidence of defendant admitting to such conspiracy with her husband is attached here to as Exhibit B. As if this wasn't obnoxious enough, and all the legal showboating by the defendant and her attorneys at the intentional compromise of a loving and caring father whom has demonstrated the highest echelon of civility and restraint with defendant, despite the sacred bond between father and daughter severed over and over again at the hands of one that clearly demonstrated a lack of moral turpitude, empathy, and a complete disregard for others, including the minor child. The proverbial last straw came August 26, 2020, when the defendant filed yet again another petition to modify the custody order entered by this court. Said filing not only was a frivolous filing, but one that made no sense whatsoever. The plaintiff would show into this court that through multiple recorded phone calls with Department of Child Services, the plaintiff was advised that complaint, as well as all complaints for that matter, were dismissed as unfounded. And the defendant was and is well aware of that, to include Crowder's most recent attorney, Christy McCoy, who chose to further attack the character of the petitioner, a United States Marine Corps veteran, in a completely vile attempt to defend against the charge levied by Olive Branch Police Department after her client, aberrant, reputable, and downright disgusting false allegation of rape placed on the father of her child. With the attached evidence, petitioner would move this honorable court for a trial at its earliest available time. Petitioner would also move this court to consider the bizarre occurrences that have occurred and to grant petitioner an emergency trial on the said facts and additional evidence the petitioner is prepared to present before this court. And the petitioner would assert that if the court is backed up and unable to grant an emergency hearing to grant the transfer possession of the minor child over to the petitioner, especially in light of the petitioner being denied rights to his child as set forth in the visitation agreement.
I don't know. It's what it is. It's kicking the can down to the next person. There's a whole bunch of plausible deniability that's going on, and nobody just wants to step up and handle the real problem at hand. Meanwhile, somebody that's been truly victimized by lies and false allegations continues to get more and more victimized, continues to have this child. My child is, I haven't seen my child since January 20th. While my newborn was in Le Bonheur Hospital, had my 6-year-old Lydia for visitation, dropped her off with her mom, and then that's when all the shit happened. She called in a false claim to Child Services, tried to claim that my wife had hit her. It was another complete lie. My daughter even told Child Services. Never happened. Child Services dismissed it as a complete lie, unfounded. Meanwhile, I still haven't seen my child because then, oops, COVID hits. Court shut down. She starts invoking Child Services' name into her lies to say that they advised not to let me see my child. Meanwhile, $600 a month in child support's paid out to her. Scandalous, scandalous, scandalous. Every single letter of the word monstrous applies when it comes to this. I've got some stories for you. These stories, it's an ongoing building block into 3 different books that I'm working on. One of them is about writing with the Outlaw. My adventures in being politically charged, politically framed, having all the evidence of government involvement, deep state involvement, a bunch of corrupt attorneys, even the courts. The second one's going to be about all the shenanigans with Phyllis Liz Crowder, my ex, mother of my child. The false, just the insanity that encompasses that. All the frivolous, false claims, and my stand against it. Even when it came to having to represent myself, because I couldn't find an attorney to help me. Meanwhile, she's got attorneys bending over backwards to help defend her lies. I'm pretty sure on a third, and that'll be the more familial aspect about how my family turned their back on me, especially at a time that I needed them the most, especially in seeing the undeniable proof, seeing me steadily drowning more and more, sinking in quicksand, and yet it's one thing not to contribute and help out. It's another thing to actually completely turn your back on somebody that is struggling with the particular things that I've run into with all the adversity. The biggest challenges of my life having to be one man going up against a ridiculously corrupt system that continues to break laws, that continues to carry their witch hunt on. I need a prayer. This is Matt Reardon. You've been riding with the Outlaw. Take care, guys.
But, I mean, that's why, despite through it all, I mean, I've not been, I've been far from an unreasonable person, despite all the shit that I've had to deal with over the last 3 years.
I know that, Matt, and that makes 2 of us.
Well, I think what I had to deal with was a little bit more serious.
Well, potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
No, it was a certain huge difference, because had the circumstances have been different, and had I been living in Oxford, I would have been guilty until proven innocent, and I probably would have been fucking shanked for the accusation that was put against me. Definitely the first one, and quite possibly the second.
Again, there are things that you and I both have to take to the cross. And I know for a fact that there are things that I have definitely taken to the cross and have left there. And it is pure evil and hatred for me to be subjected to everything brought up over and over again.
Well, the thing is, I never did confront it.
Admission to that.
I just never did confront it. You and I never did actually talk about that. I have no idea why that happened. I can only assume it was probably Dustin, and played a part in it.
That was a major part, yes. Again, there are things that we have to take to the cross, Matt, and leave it there.
Yes, Joey, you still in?
Joey.
Yes.
Hey, it's Matt Reardon. Hey, I sent you, so when we got off the phone earlier, I sent you over the Word document that the paralegal had sent me. It was not executed, it was not signed, but I talked to Sherry Wall, and Sherry forwarded over both the order from 2016 that showed that I had joint legal custody, everything. And then she also sent me the 2017 modification that took it back to unsupervised, showed the visitation schedule. And I sent both of those to you. I wanted to make sure they didn't show up in your spam box.
Okay, I had checked my email, but I guess I didn't. Your number wasn't correct. I tried calling earlier. The deputy just got back a few minutes ago and spoke to her, saw your daughter. She's fine. Spoke to your wife. Your wife...
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry. Spoke to Phyllis.
Yeah.
And she stated that she was following what the child custody services were telling her, and you could not see the child, and she just waited to see what the court did.
The child custody services closed it out and said that she was that she was making false claims. They closed everything out. They investigated it. That's incorrect.
I don't doubt anything you're saying, but that's what she told us, and said she wouldn't not know. No, she did not want you over there. That's the reason I think we went out there. So.
Wow. She said.
So if I were you, I would get my attorney or go through Rural Legal Services and get the process going.
Okay.
We will have a report on file stating just what I told you.
You do have a report?
Yeah, also write a report on it.
Okay, I appreciate it, and yeah, I've made sure to document every other Friday I drive to Pontotoc. It's a 30-minute trip for me to go meet up for visitation, and I do that because I don't. The one time that I don't, she's bound to show up and say I wasn't there. But I made sure that my wife sends her a text message every other Friday that Matt will be in Pontotoc at 5 o'clock per the visitation schedule. And she will not respond back, has not responded back once. I've wasted my time and my gas every other Friday driving to Pontotoc and driving back empty-handed. And it's crazy.
Well, I believe you're doing what's right, so I think it'll come back and it'll pay off for you.
Okay.
The waiting game for you, it may be bad now, but that type of stuff helps you later in court when y'all get there.
It does, but it's just I cannot get these times back. I feel like
I hear what you're saying, yeah. And I read a report for went out there and checked on it for you the other day.
Yeah. What would you do, Joey, if you were in my shoes, and it was your child that?
That's tough, man. For each person's different. It depends on what frame of mind you're in at the time. I'd like to think that I would try to stay within the law and do right, but again, sometimes a waiting game doing right's hard, but the reward in the end could be best.
Yeah.
You may not get to see for another 3 months, but in the end, if you show the judge you're doing everything you're supposed to do and you're doing it right, your reward could be that you get your daughter full time.
I feel like she has no right to play the judge, jury, and execution. And
I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. I just I feel like it doesn't show care on my behalf if I don't do everything I can to at least see my daughter and speak to her.
And I think you are. You're doing everything within the law. And if nothing else, you can bring the child up here to the jail, and you can come up here and see her.
Right.
Child Protection Service.
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking for Mercedes.
She no longer works for our office, sir.
She doesn't? Okay. Maybe you can assist me then. Elena is the caseworker over here in Lee County that we've worked with. My name is Matt Reardon. My ex has repeatedly made false reports. She's actually under indictment right now for filing a false rape charge in DeSoto County. And she has kept my child from me since the middle of January. Hadn't let me see her or talk to her. And Lafayette County Sheriff's Department went out there about a week ago because I wanted to see her and talk to her. And she told them that her caseworker told her that I was not to see or talk to my daughter. And Elena confirmed that to not be. She said that is absolutely false.
That's not something that we would probably do.
Yeah, she said she was going to try to reach out to the caseworker, which was Mercedes, and I hadn't heard anything back. I know that, you know...
Mercedes has been gone from our office for over a month.
Okay.
So first of all, she hasn't talked to Mercedes recently, I can assure you.
It would have been whenever, it would have been originally, back in probably the last week of January. My ex is invoking y'all's agency's name and saying that y'all are saying that you know, that I can't see or talk to my child. So I was hoping, you know, the case is y'all had closed out the case. It's got me stuck between a rock and a hard place because I worry about my daughter. This woman is crazy. To just, I haven't even. Yeah, but you know, yes, and she is in direct contempt of the judge's order, and she doesn't care. The problem is, we had a baby born on Christmas Day that spent almost 2 months at Le Bonheur. You know, it put us financially between a rock and a hard place. I understand. I just thought I'd ask you. Yeah, I had to shut my company down that I started last year because of the operating expenses increasing, and it's like, you know, I have to pay money to file. You can't get out and do diddly, I know. She made a fake allegation back in November, like October or November of 2017, that I had touched my daughter. I would never in a million years.
Well, I believe you there because she's obviously lying to you about what I can corroborate with you, that we haven't told anyone that you can't see your child. That's, you know, the only way we would do that is if you've been arrested for some type of sexual offense, and you know what I'm saying? You've been in jail for something like that. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So she's lying anyway.
Right.
Not that that should surprise you based on what you're telling me. Honest to goodness, I do not know, like I say, other than having to get an attorney and take her butt back to court. Okay, tell me that child's last name again, please.
It's Reardon, Reardon.
And the first name was what?
Lydia, Lydia.
Okay, there is no type of open case. And like I say, she's going to obviously, from the sounds of things, she's going to keep lying to you and trying to pull your chain and that kind of stuff. He's definitely in contempt.
Sure. Now, is there...
And that's the only two things that I can think of, sweetie.
Is there anything that I can get, basically saying that it is closed out, and she was never told that she's to keep the child from seeing me and talking to me? Because
no, I mean,
if I can give that to Joey East.
No, but I mean, you can tell Joey East he has phone numbers to my supervisor, who is Jennifer Candler.
Okay.
I mean, we're not even hardly going into our office at all to be able to print anything, sir.
Okay.
So, I mean, he can call Jennifer if he wants to. They have access to our phone numbers. Trust me, we have to get them on-call schedules with, you know, all of our staff, you know, information as far as phone numbers are concerned.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you've got a court order there, you can just ask him, you know, if there's somebody that will escort you to the house with that court order and let you see this child. And like I say, that may not be something that they can legally do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if not, then your only other option is to get this woman back in court.
And of course, it takes a long time.
That's the only other option I'm aware of.
With the backed up court schedule and everything shut down. Definitely.
And I'm sorry, I'm no more help than that.
No, I appreciate it. You know, when our other daughter was born back in April of 2018, she did the same type of thing, and it was like a jealousy issue. Like,
I understand, sir. Well, like I said, talk to them about having that order that you have proof of visitation today.
Well, I
wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, so getting on to a new topic, and that is how the laws are applied. Are they applied equally, or is it an equal distribution of how the laws are applied in the state? And one of the things that I've really noticed that's really stood out here lately has been a real disappointment to me, is just the clear two systems of laws that are being applied. Last night I went through the Mississippi Civil and Criminal Codes to look at everything around my case that I have brought forward, that I have proof of, and it's amazing to me that I printed out probably 20 different laws that have been just grossly violated. My rights have been absolutely destroyed in all of this. And the fact that people can so easily get away with the things that they get away with in intentional means by way of torts, and those are never looked at. In fact, even going to the point of intentionally doing it now because of the stand I'm taking against it and how all of this just gets overlooked. And so I printed out about 20 different sheets, 20 different laws that had been just flagrantly broken. And it amazes me at how the state looks at all of this, how these municipalities do, and it's all based on who you are. If you're an attorney, it's clear that the laws apply to you differently, and you have different kind of influence to where you can actually make the same laws that apply to everybody else not apply to you, not apply to your client. And just the extreme gross victimization that is going on, how lives are steadily being destroyed. And it's like, it's no sweat off the back of these people, and it doesn't even matter how many lives get destroyed. I've always thought that Mississippi was one of the states that was going to be further behind the rest as far as corruption went, intentional fraud committed in the state. And I was wrong. I was extremely wrong. This is so disappointing. It's depressing just how far off track things as a society have gotten. For me, it takes on a whole different form because of the oath that I took when I joined the Marine Corps that not everybody took. And so, of course, especially when it's exacted in revenge upon me, I'm going to, of course, take the biggest sign of disrespect and assume the thought that and the stance that this is far beyond just an attack, and it's escalated things to using the courts in a way to where it's taking an intentional tort and further blowing it out into a full-on declaration of war on the citizens by the courts, by the corrupt system, by the deep state. Mississippi, the state that I thought was going to be the furthest behind the 8-ball when it came to deep state corruption, and everything that I have uncovered, discovered, investigated, all signs lead to it actually being up there at the top. People just don't realize. Y'all need to open your eyes. It's beyond anything criminal. When you really take a look at the big picture, you can definitely take on a much higher appreciation for the job that President Donald Trump does and all the enormous amounts of bullshit that he has to put up with on a daily basis dealing with the corrupt deep state machine. It's much larger, it's much darker, it's much deeper, it's much murkier than I think what most people realize. Most people do not see the intricate details and, what all is really truly happening underneath the hood. And I've tried to do my best in demonstrating that through writing with the Outlaw. Enough people just are not paying attention to it. They're not seeing the things that are truly going on, and unfortunately it's going to be too late when most people do. Right now, one of the big problems that I'm dealing with is a publisher by the name of the Oxford Eagle that put out an article on May 30th, 2017. In that article, Major Alan Wilburn of the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department, in fact, spoke libelously in what he knew was a completely false and untrue way of painting a narrative around everything that happened back during my witch hunt. Spoke in fact and not using the word allegedly as he knew he was supposed to use. He's been doing this long enough, speaking to the media long enough to know that you use the word allegedly. And not only was he completely wrong in what he did, and it was intentional to further divide my base of people that were behind me and to paint a picture that was not really truly the case to help divide the community even further. But there's no remorse. There's absolutely no remorse, and he further gone on the offensive with that. And I'm looking for a retraction article to be issued by the Oxford Eagle for them to press him for details for the proof, which he does not have. He will not produce because there is none. If he doesn't have it, they have to put out a correction article, or they are liable under the Mississippi libel laws. So we're calling Olive Branch Municipal Court. I called about a week ago. I spoke with a guy named Dickie. Dickie. And Dickie read off what the final outcome was, what the argument was by the defense counsel and by the state. Here's what he had to say.
Well, it's not much to say here. The argument with the counsel for the city and defense counsel. Well, city arguing the maximum jail time and maximum fine. Defendant arguing minimum of this done with latest ongoing custody dispute. 20 parties now on file in the Fayette County Chancery Court. The court, after hearing the argument, sentenced is limited to 30 days in jail and fined $1209.25. Court ordered a report back date to allow appeal if desired by counsel and for final sentencing. So nothing can be done until that final court date.
Now that was on the 19th of October. That was coincidentally Phyllis's birthday. And then I called back on Monday, the 26th, a week later. She had trial on the 27th, the following day. Here's how that call went. Now tomorrow, today is the 26th, tomorrow's the 27th. The 27th is the deadline that Liz Crowder has to either get an appeal in or turn herself in to start a 30-day jail sentence. By the way, it's absolutely ridiculous that somebody could even be sentenced to 30 days in jail for falsely accusing another of rape. That is a rant I'm going to go on at another time. Right now, I'm calling Olive Branch Municipal Court. Here we go. I can't say I'm surprised by this.
Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you've reached this...
Just turn it off, because, you know, they live in the voicemail department, never turn your phone.
Yeah, I wasn't going to leave a voicemail. I've never in my life seen a court that will not answer phone calls as much as Olive Branch Municipal Court.
I didn't know that was even possible.
I didn't either.
Because
every time I've gone down there, there's at least 3 people back in the clerk's office. Well, so where is everybody at, and why can't they answer the phone?
Not just that, like, it's like pretty much you always know that you can call down there, or you should be able to call your city hall or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're always going to answer.
How many other people are getting phone calls ignored by Olive Branch? It seems that...
Or they should have put on a hold.
There's so many places that do things just sloppily when it comes to courts. Sloppy, like sloppy seconds. Ugh. Okay, so we're calling them back a second time. It's been about 5 minutes or so. You'd think that state employees, city employees, unlike clearly the judgeless Judge Bill. By the way, I need to go try to catch her. I might go try to catch her after this. Here we go.
Olive Branch Court, this is Shelby.
Hey Shelby, I was calling to check on, I'm actually the victim in a case that had recently settled out over the past month, actually about a month ago. This is Matt Reardon. I was calling in reference to the Phyllis Crowder case. She has until tomorrow to submit an appeal or turn herself in, and I called about a week ago. Dickie told me that she had not yet filed an appeal, and I wanted to see if anything had changed, if there was an appeal on file yet.
No, she hasn't as of yet, which she can tomorrow in court, but as of right now, she hasn't that I can see.
Okay, so is there like actually a scheduled court time?
Yes, tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Tomorrow at 9, okay. So she would have to be there with her attorney, being that they haven't submitted an appeal yet?
Yes, one or the other would have to be here tomorrow at 9.
Okay. Now, is there any way, I know that I'd spoken with Ryan, of course, he's the prosecutor. She had, I've got evidence that they have used the chancery filing in Lafayette County in order to harass and delay legal proceedings. This is what they, if you look at the file, their argument was that there was a ongoing legal matter with Chancery Court in Lafayette County, and those were completely made up, perjured lies that they had done. She had another attorney file it solely for the purpose of trying to reduce the sentence on this. I've actually got proof. In fact, if you look at my counter filing against her, I've got all the proof laid out in that. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of remedies I have, being that they are completely playing the legal system in order to, and they're still keeping my daughter away from me.
Well, and unfortunately, the judge here can't handle anything like that. But, I mean, are you coming in tomorrow at 9 for court?
I mean, I can. I would like to if I would be able to address that particular matter. So if Christy McCoy is going to be there to submit an appeal, or Phyllis is going to be there, I would definitely like to raise that issue of what they did here in Lafayette County. I don't know if the judge has the ability to shoot down their appeal if they try to appeal it. And if they do appeal it, hopefully the appellate court would come down more seriously on her for doing what they did. It's sickening.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is open court, so you're more than welcome to be here at 9 tomorrow and have all of the documentation that you're referring to.
Okay.
And if, opportunity presents itself, you can definitely show that to the judge.
Okay. And so the court tomorrow at 9 o'clock, that's just for, surrendering or submitting the appeal?
That is her report back date, yes, sir. So the judge will address, both of those situations tomorrow in court.
Okay, and is Ryan...
Her right then.
What's that?
He could send her straight, to jail. That would be completely up to him.
Well, I would hope that they wouldn't continue it any longer. That would, just be... Yeah, it should be final, final adjudged. But is Ryan... I know that the case is over as far as, it's been adjudged. I know that Ryan's familiar about, the tactics that they were trying and what I had brought him in the loop of. And I know the normal court procedure is like on an active, ongoing thing, that I have to, speak with him in court. But since this is settled out, I was hoping maybe that I could, bring him into the loop on everything as far as, what all has happened here in Lafayette County in regards to that.
Yeah, he is supposed to be here tomorrow, so you could possibly have an opportunity to speak to him as well.
Okay, I didn't know if I could speak with him today.
He's not here. He's only here on Tuesday. So where he is every other day of the week, I have no idea. I have no contact information for him other than when he's here on Tuesday. Okay. And one other question I have for you. Can I get a copy of the final judgment, their arguments? Because like I said, I'm in this chancery matter. I haven't seen my daughter since January. She's been, they've gone in gross contempt of the visitation order, and it's just been a vicious misuse, flagrant abuse of the court system. The visitation order to try to manipulate a favored outcome for them, and I'm trying to get a copy of the final judgment up there. Okay, and once we have one, we could look at getting that for you, but with it still being, ongoing and with the report back date of tomorrow, there isn't a final as of yet.
Okay. And what exactly was their argument again for the final sentence?
Oh, now that I have no idea. Okay. I don't have her folder. It's getting ready for court tomorrow. So I don't have any idea what's going on with this case.
I got you. Okay. I'm trying to push for reform. I definitely think that somebody that falsely accuses somebody of rape or even of any felony crime definitely should not be sentenced as a misdemeanor. I don't see that as a deterrent in any way, with the seriousness of the crime that they accuse. So.
Right. It is very serious. It really is.
It certainly is. Okay, well, I'm glad you told me there's court at 9 o'clock, because I did not know there was actually a scheduled date and time to come back.
Yes, sir, there is.
Okay. All right, and is there a time, maybe I'll try calling back before, what time do y'all leave?
We leave at 5.
Okay, I'll call back before 5, before y'all leave, just to make sure that they hadn't submitted an appeal like last second today. That way I don't waste my time and gas driving all the way up to Olive Branch tomorrow morning.
They can have it at court.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate it.
Perfect. We'll talk to you later, okay?
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Target Clerk's office.
Hey, is this Allison?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Allison, my name is Matt Reardon. Calling in regards to the Phyllis Crowder appeal that would have probably been submitted over the last probably 2 or 3 days to you.
Okay, I don't have an appeal for Phyllis Crowder. What court was it filed in?
It was municipal court in Olive Branch. It was filed last minute. She had court on Tuesday, where she had to surrender or have an appeal in. And they had told me the morning of Tuesday, about 9 a.m., they said that the day before, on Monday, which I had called the day before, and they hadn't received an appeal yet, but they said on Tuesday that they had gotten a last minute appeal in, and they weren't sure if that was going to be accepted by the circuit court or not. So y'all don't...
Okay, so it's a municipal court appeal from Olive Branch
Yes.
by the name of Phyllis Crowder.
Yes, ma'am.
There hasn't been anything filed in this office by that name.
Interesting. So, I'm just... Okay, so they had 30 days to appeal, before it gets time barred. And Olive Branch says that the appeal was put in, so I'm trying to... This is very odd.
I haven't received anything in this office regarding an appeal, and I'm the one that processed. It's a criminal matter.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't received anything about an appeal, and I just processed the paperwork. So, I mean, you can check back, but I haven't received anything.
Okay, the reason I was asking, in regards to appeals, would I be allowed to give a victim impact statement? Would I be able to submit a motion to quash the stay of appeal?
You would have to contact an attorney or file anything pro se. I just process the paperwork.
Yeah, I do my own filings.
Hey, sir, there's not. I've got to catch the other line. There's not anything I can, assist you with legally, or I just could be able to tell you if a case was open here, because we just process the paperwork when it's filed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.